So for the next speaker, we present the paper Reconfiguring Folk Performance for the Contemporary State, Sintang Darisai, and the Eagle of the Sama-Bajau. Please welcome Dr. Ricardo Abad and Dr. Matthew.
Good morning.
Good morning. So today we will be presenting something quite different, which is not based, well, it is based on field work, but more of an experiment of how we use folk artistic expression in the production of theater. Ricky, would you like to?
Yes, in 2011, Matthew, I was the director and Matthew was the choreographer. We did a kind of Romeo and Juliet. But what we did is we wanted to use the Igal, the dance of the Sama-Bajau, as the motif for the production. And we did this for many reasons. One, because I met Matthew and he was studying the Igal, and I thought it might be good to bring that folk performance into the production. And secondly, because I want to expose my Manila students, Christian audiences, to a folk performance of the South, of the Muslim population. And it would be one way in which we can bridge the Christian-Muslim divide in our country. And so this is what we did in 2011. Right?
Yes, and we also wanted to create something very different, right, Ricky? Because normally we have a lot of Shakespeare productions in the Philippines, and some of them would simply mimic what happens in the West. And we wanted to relocate Shakespeare, among other of our goals. So we said, let's experiment. But let us work with the people from the southern Philippines. Ricky?
Yes, and then so our argument in this paper is that after we have done this and we merged it, and we will describe that merging for a while, we had the production, and it ran for up to now about 57 shows. It went to different countries. It went around the Philippines and in international conventions. And our argument is that even though we tried to collaborate and tried to reconfigure the dance for modern audiences, we came across many issues of reception. Many people who not only praised it, but many people who made comments about it. And we would like to deal with those issues of representation every time you reconfigure folk performances for a modern audience.
And I think theater has to always deal with these issues of representation.
Yes.
And theater has to be courageous in that matter, because nothing can be perfect. And we will always get criticism, and we always have to be willing to listen. So these are our agenda.
So for today, in the 15 minutes, we'll go through this very fast. I will talk a little bit about the text and the performance style. And then Matthew will talk about Eagle as the motif used for the play. And then we will both deal with the reception issues and some critique of the work and how we dealt with those criticisms as we went on, right?
Yes.
Let me begin with the text. The pictures you see are pictures from the production. The text is really, we found in Gutenberg, Project Gutenberg, Filipino version in poem, a metrical romance, 1901, written by an anonymous poet named Roque. And he had a poem called Sintang Dalisay. Sintang Dalisay means pure love. Ni Julieta at Romeo, based not only on Shakespeare, but from the sources that Shakespeare used. A long, long poem in Old Tagalog. And what we did was that we combined that, but since it's a poem, it's not a play, I combined it. I wrote a text with a student using some of Shakespeare and some of Roque, and even the text was a collaborative venture, and then used some of my own writings and put it together so we have a performance text. And since we were using the Igal, Sama-Bajau, we had to change the whole thing to an imaginary Muslim environment. We had to change the names of the characters, so it's not now Romeo and Juliet, it's now Rashidin and Jamila. We had not Verona, but it's Samperna. And everything we had to change to the Sama-Bajau names in the community. And the costumes now became Muslim, and the setting and the music, and we use silat for the fight scenes and many things. You want to add anything that, Matthew?
Yes, I would like to add that you also used the text of national artist Rolando Tino,
the
a translation, one of the best translations of Shakespeare's, apart from weaving it into your own text. And along the way, we also had our informants contributing to the text. Like one informant even contributed a prayer, which was quite exciting for us because we did not ask for the contribution, but he said, "Let me contribute a prayer for your play." Ricky?
So with an intertextual text, and the production style was very simple. I saw it as a community piece, how it would be performed in a village in the Philippine South. And so I had the musicians at the back, you see them at the back, and I had mats like that, 3 mats, that's all my set, all right, and costumes. And that we had one flowing scenes after the other to constitute the play, all right? Good. And so we had basically, I said, a Romeo and Juliet that is sort of mixed with different texts, using the Igal of the motif and the dance as the movement piece, combined with text. At the same time, music there with using indigenous instruments, not only local instruments, but Asian instruments and Philippine instruments. And then we had this kind of a show. All right, let us to the main point of this paper, which is... before we show, when we show the video, so that we will have an idea of how the Eagle was reconfigured. This is the only video we'll show, about 3 minutes long, to give you some idea of this thing. This is the love scene of Romeo and Juliet. This was never shown in the Shakespeare text. Romeo goes to Juliet one last time before he is exiled. So this is the last meeting that they have. The next meeting, Juliet will already be dead. So this is kind of like a honeymoon scene. And Matthew had this difficult time. How do we choreograph this piece using the Eagle and using a very sensual scene? Matthew, you want to add something to this scene?
Yes, I would just like to say that this is a very sensual scene, very emotional, and therefore it's, you have to be a matured audience to watch it. So if you're not matured, you can probably leave the room right now. But I assume everybody is matured. So it's a love scene. So this is one of those places where we have to be very, very courageous.
And very careful because of the costume. So this is our Jamila. She's our student. The other one is also our student.
The costume design is also done by a famous Philippine artist by the name of Salvador Bernal, national artist for production, for theater production.
and the bird will call after that to show the play. And so the next slide now, Matthew will tell us about how that was the kind of reconfigured eagle. Now maybe Matthew can talk about more what the eagle was in Sama-Bajau, for Sama-Bajau, and how he went about reconfiguring it for the play.
Yes, I think Igal is quite overrepresented in this conference, so maybe I will not talk too much because you will see an Igal performance this evening, and you saw a workshop yesterday. So what I can simply say is that the dance is the dance of the Sama or Sinama-speaking peoples of maritime Southeast Asia. They are also called Bajau in Malaysia in the southern Philippines, and Baju in the Sulawesi region of Indonesia. In my own encounter of eagle, there are three forms. The first form is very important, the ritual eagle, which is used for the communication with their ancestors. And that's why we have rituals called pag-igal-jin, where they dance and then the ancestral spirit will enter the body, and then they're able to communicate with ancestors in this manner. The second type of eagle that I've encountered in the field is the social eagle, what I call social eagle, which we see in wedding festivities, where the young men and the young ladies dance with each other, or the young ladies show how beautiful they are. Look how beautiful I am, and the whole festivity has its own functional purpose in getting young people to meet. The third type, which we also find in the field, is what I call theatrical eagle. They do have provincial day celebrations, festivals that they show their own choreographies of eagle. And in fact, between Malaysia and the Philippines, we have a brisk trade of DVD, some of them pirated, so piracy still happens nowadays. And the DVD would show singers, and the singers would be backed up by eagle dancers. So it's a very, very vibrant industry in Malaysia. We hope to steal it someday, but not now. Obviously, our eagle belongs to theatrical eagle, and we have to emphasize that point, that this is not the eagle of the field, although we collaborated with the artists from the field. Ricky?
Yeah, so the very first thing in collaboration is that I am very much aware of the kind of hegemonic nature of choreography, where the field worker goes to the field and comes and teaches that. And so we wanted to avoid that. Although Matthew knew Igal, I didn't want Matthew to dominate the choreography of the production. So Matthew said, let us get local teachers from Tabawan, which is from the south. Let us bring them at our own expense, right?
Yes.
We brought them 3 teachers, Silat teachers. All right, we brought them, spent them a month in Manila.
I had to feed them.
Excellent.
And my house became halal for 1 month. Okay.
And then so we got them there, and then we brought our Christian students, and they met. We gave them like 2 weeks of workshop and music. And so that's one way we collaborated with local masters. Now, when they learned that all the thing from the local masters, Matthew was observing all of this, and then now we have to configure it. How do we do this for the scenes? All right, there's a fight scene, there's a love scene, there's a parent scene, there's mourning, the cemetery scene. How do we configure that? And then that's the time where we do the theatrical eagle.
Yes.
With the collaborators, with the local teachers watching us, and we said, this is our study, our experiment. What do you think? They would add things. Can the boy and the girl dance together? Can the boy put the foot there? And can the handkerchief? And all of these little things, we had to ask them if they approved of it, to see whether it was consistent or aligned with their customs and their worldviews. Right?
So it's like theatrical production using the principle of informed consent, because we always had the informant there. Yeah. And is this all right? And we have to really, please do not be ashamed. Please tell us if it's wrong, because sometimes they will just be smiling and not really saying anything, but actually it's wrong already. So we have to be very proactive in trying to get that informed consent. And we now go to the third, which is, I'm using a Sanskrit Indian term, but since Igal is basically an improvised dance form, we had to devise our own movements for theater. For example, I got a movement from Silat, which basically is a movement for a command, something like this. The Silat would go, and then you will start to see the beautiful Silat movement. So I got this movement, and then you do and go there and get me a boat. So we have to do a lot of experimentation. And then when you're querying somebody, then you do a collect or an outward turn. Where did you let go? Oh, she went over there. In the Philippines, by the way, we do not point. So since we do not point, we have to do an outward turn here, or we use our chin there. Okay, so a lot of experimentation had to be done. And there were 3 modes of creation. Ricky said that he did not want me to be too dominant, and I can be very dominant, and that can be a problem. So the first form is domination, or basically dictation. Okay, you do this, and most choreographers would do that, right? The second one would be show me what you can do, which is like a conversation. Show me what you can do. And some of the dancers who have been studying it for the longest time can already do so many things, and they would show me what they can do, and what I would do is a subtraction or an addition. Okay? And of course, our informant will be there also to do some subtraction and addition. And then the third is basically, Ricky, let's go and have some beer. Let them do the choreography. Okay? That's delegation. And then we'll come back and say, oh, it's very good. Okay, we'll put that in. Ricky, let's go again and have another beer. Okay, so there were 3 modes of creation, which made it really very convivial. So we can go out and have dinner with our informants while the students were working on
and when
what
you saw
they
the
doing.
Eagle dance, what you were saying is that the student, they had the sense of the understanding of the scene. They had to be very close, and they had to look like they were lusting for each other. But we didn't have to teach them. It was very difficult in acting. You don't really teach the actor the specific gesture. In contemporary acting, it's impossible. You just have to let it flow, and they know the movement. They've had a workshop. Let them express it through the Igal lessons they've had. All right, so all the movements you saw there were really very much theirs. Except in the last, we said, hey, why don't you use your hand as the post-coital kind of movement? All right, just use hands. But it's up to them to just, put it down and let it rest wherever it wanted to rest, right, Matthew?
Yes, I will not mention that word anymore.
Okay.
But anyway, yes, so it was very fruitful and very exciting for us working, because it became very collaborative. So it was no longer a dictatorial type of creation of theater, but a very collaborative, and Ricky uses the term convivial. We are living it together. So we hope to keep on working on this type of theater, which is actually the basis for community theater. A lot of community theaters that we see all over the world. Shall we proceed,
That's right,
Ricky?
yes. And of course, with Ruben here, we're probably embarking on a new project in a couple of years.
Yes, Ruben has a special interest on elephants, so maybe we'll use an elephant in our next.
In all the shows, in most of the shows, and we have 57 so far, we really have gotten a lot of praise in the newspapers, in the international circles, in our universities, and stuff like that. This play has won an award in the nation and stuff like that. And here are some of the comments. We don't have to go much of that, but it's quite a landmark in intercultural Shakespeare when you use the local culture to express Shakespearean text. So it got a lot of comments in that. We got an invitation, never realized, but got an invitation to the Globe Theatre in England for this, but very costly to do most of these things. But what is more interesting are some of the comments that we got in this play, some of the misgivings we got in this play. You want to talk about some of that?
Yes. No matter what you do, there will always be criticism, and you either listen to them and reincorporate them into your work, or you ignore them. Okay, and both are all right. Both are all right. And what's important is that some communication is happening, and that criticism continues to come. For example, one writer said that deeper research should have been done on the traditions, and she said that we should have shown segregation of sexes, and we should have shown the use of white in funeral practices. And I have a bit of a problem with that one, because the segregation of sexes in Islamic societies is not universal. In Southeast Asia, it is less. It's more accommodative, and it is less followed. As for the use of white, we did use white. We covered Juliet in white during the during the death scene. But we did not wrap her because there's no time to wrap the actress, right? If we wrap her, then she won't be able to act anymore, right? So we just had to rely on some artistic license, simply put a white cloth over her, and that's already the death scene. So this kind of criticism I will reflect on, but will ignore. No? Because the writer also did not understand that I have done some research in the field. Yeah. How much more research can we do? But we thank the writer for critiquing it anyway and for observing it so we can react and explain ourselves.
But we accepted one criticism.
One is that we had a scene where the imam was praying, and then Rashidin, Romeo, comes in.
Very happy, very
happy because he has met Jamila for the first time. And
my block was that
Rashidin jumps over, leaps over.
Rashid goes and he jumps over him like this.
Like that. And then we thought it was very cute. But we had somebody from the Institute of Islamic Studies and said, Matthew, it's unethical for the imam to be distracted during the prayer, so you better take that out or redo something. So we redid the scene. So the next time the imam was peeling vegetables.
That's right.
And then he was no longer praying. So we do need to listen, and we do hope that criticism comes so that we can be more culturally sensitive.
The other thing they said the imam will never allow two people to get married or something like this and to have sex. So it's impossible. That's not very good image for the imam, right? Or something of that sort.
Yes.
But elopement or something.
Well, yeah, but there's a lot of elopement and kidnapping.
That's right.
No, marriage by kidnapping happens in the South. You like somebody, you kidnap, you elope, and then you're already married. The parents cannot do anything about it anymore. So obviously, that one we need to ignore. So we do need to listen, but we do not have to accept everything. Otherwise, there will be no artistic license anymore, and nothing will happen to the play.
The last comment had about a thesis written by a student on the play, and he said, well, the text of Roque and Shakespeare had a nationalistic element. In other words, the two families fighting represented conflict within a country, within a state. So there's a kind of historical background to all of this, all right? And by focusing simply on the love story, we have missed to use the Romeo and Juliet as a commentary on the state of conflict of a country and a community. And that's a valid criticism if you want to look at it. I did not, of course, the feudal family conflict is there, but it did not represent anything of a great conflict in the Muslim world or the Christian world or the contemporary world. We just focused on the love story, as Shakespeare did anyway.
So I think we will incorporate that comment the next time we do it.
Yes.
Maybe if they invite us here in Bangkok.
That's right.
Yes,
That's true.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's a rather embarrassing comment because I have to reveal to you that my degree is not in ethnomusicology. I'm a doctor of law in political science. Okay? And Professor Abad is not an ethnomusicologist, he's a sociologist. But we are theater practitioners in the Philippines. Shall we go on, Ricky?
Okay, we're almost done. So here are some our issues of representation when we do intercultural work, particularly of this sort. And the first one has to do, as I said before, the challenge of many, although we had the approval of our local teachers from Tabawan, from the South, when we showed it, there are people who are of the more conservative group of Islam, the Islamic fundamentalists, who see in the work things that they didn't like.
May I say?
Yes, go on.
One lady, after a performance at the Cultural Center of the Philippines, rushed out in a huff and said the director and the producer should be killed for their portrayal of Muslims.
I got a death threat from this production.
Sorry, there's a death threat. And I said, why did you not mention the choreographer? Okay. Only the director and the producer, the choreographer should also be killed. But we get these things. But luckily nothing happened from that death threat. But it did happen. So what do you do when that happens?
At the same time, we got very good comment from the Institute of Islamic Studies from the Islamic.
Yeah,
group.
she situated the whole discourse in there is Islam and there is folk Islam, and there's also creation that can be done on stage. So the professor from the Islamic Studies Institute was actually more liberal in her interpretation of what is proper and what is not proper.
And then the love scene you saw strangely enough, did not get any criticism.
Nobody criticized
More
the
praise,
love scene.
actually, even
Yeah.
from the Islamic group.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. The comments were on the treatment of the imam, the approval of the more the use of white. Those are the more conservative ones. Very strange, right?
Maybe love is really universal then.
You want to talk about Orientalism?
No, I give it to you.
The comment. I will talk about the last one.
The Orientalism is, well, how do we define Orientalism? It's an issue of representation. I think we are able to avoid it by collaboration. When you represent a group in a way that they do not want to represent it, and you represent it in a certain way that you say, this is the way to represent you, and all other representations are no longer valid. That can be a form of Orientalism. I think we are able to avoid this by constantly listening to our informants and also listening to the criticisms that we hear. Any addition, Ricky?
No, that's it. Yes.
Yes.
And Orientalism is a criticism of the West looking at the East.
Yes, yes.
All right. So here's the East looking at the East.
Yes.
So I think this is the problem. We might be accused of Orientalizing our own nation, our own country. All right. In particular, in international gatherings. And the only answer we have that is what Matthew is, that we collaborate and we are trying to be as honest as we can with what we portray.
The other problem is ethnographic conflation. Many people think, well, maybe it's the success of the work. Many people think that it is an ethnographic documentary. And I have to say that this is a work of theater. And this is not supposed to document the lifeways, the mores, everything that you see on the Sama-Bajau or the Sama-speaking people. So we have to keep on reminding people, this is a work of theater. This is Shakespeare. But maybe they got so much into the story, they forgot that it is not a documentary. So we need to draw the line and say we insist on our artistic license at some point.
With a great deal of respect.
Yes.
But it cannot really replicate ethnography. It cannot have ethnographic accuracy.
Yes.
If I do something from the north, I cannot get their costumes and everybody wear it. It cannot be. I have to find some other way to depict honestly, respectfully, what the colors and the shapes and the patterns using a theatrical language for design or for set.
Yes. So authenticity could not really be the main goal in this kind of work, because it's a theatrical work. And if you're going to do authenticity, then you might as well do some other medium. Yes.
Yeah, the scientific conference, not a theatrical conference.
Yes.
The last problem is really a problem of intercultural theater. In intercultural theater theory, the biggest no-no is what you call HIT, hegemonic intercultural theater, where really usually somebody from the West looks at the East, looks at India, looks at China, looks at Vietnam, looks at Thailand and Indonesia, and then get the forms and then use it for their theater abroad in Europe. Very hegemonic, all right?
Extractive. They just extract and then uses.
That kind of appropriation.
Yes.
The other thing is that also it can go within the nation, intra-hegemonic, so that I am from the capital city and I get somebody from the field and I use it there and I show it there for my own gain, for my art, all right? But what we try to do is we try to break that pattern and try to collaborate. But even then, there are still asymmetries, right? Because we are eventually, Matthew and I will have to make the final decisions on what appears on stage, even though we consult them a lot. So in a sense, it's still our work and not so much their work, but actually we should see it as a collaborative work. There's always this asymmetry that we have to deal with. It's very difficult to eliminate, but when you do collaborative work, how do you break the asymmetry? How do you share each other's capital, so to speak? The capital of their knowledge capital and their skill capital, our capital in terms of understanding contemporary stage practice, their capital in terms of local knowledge. How do we bring that together without having so much asymmetry and a great deal of mutual respect as a result of this? All right. In other countries, what they do is that eventually the goal is for the minority group eventually to stage their own work. All right, for you using the same pattern so that the hegemony is completely ousted.
And that is one of our dreams, is
That's
to
one of our
go
dreams.
and to work with them in Bongao or
That's
in
right.
Sitangkay
So
or in Tabawan. Maybe we should end there, Ricky?
Yeah, we should end there. And that's how the whole dream of this production is to start with this kind of collaboration and in theatrically, and eventually lead it, bring it to them, for them themselves to create their own works.
Thank
and
you
their own
very
improvement.
much ครับ
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for a good presentation today. So by the time limit, maybe we have some question from participants to ask our presenter. Please come to the stage, on the stage. Professor Le Tuan An. Maybe we have one or two questions before we have a coffee break. Do anyone have a question? Oh, please.
Hello. I, Mr. Thamanit, come from Thailand. I interest about the one paper from Malaysia. You build the new kandang. Yes. I noticed in the video the new kandang is difficult for practice modern rail kandang. Do you use to show the new kandang in the village with your research? One question.
Hello. Okay. Actually, the new tanda, it's not a new tanda. It's come from the Sarawak Kachal village. The Ramli Ali reconstructs the tanda, and then I take all the langkah and then do the new choreography in this new choreography in in my university, and then but. The background, the music, I still use the all traditional performance, but only the girls singing, but no, what you can say, berbalas pantun, Mr. Afzal? Yeah, only the activities I didn't, I can't do it because all the young dancer can dance, but they cannot sing, so
Now, if I want to practice the kandang, what that piece of kandang which can practice own kandang or new structure of kandang which you design?
Okay. You can practice. You can practice, but I think the new one, the langkah, really already structured. So because the traditional dancer, the old men, they use just oral, and you just okay, move here and move here. But the new langkah is already structured. So I think I answer your question.
Thank you very much.
So anyone have other question, please? Yeah, please.
I have two questions actually. One would like to direct to Nurul Akmal, first presenter, and number two to Dr. Matthew and Dr. Ricky. But first, Nurul Akmal, would you like to share to us how do you negotiate between the traditional village tanda and then the one that you learned from Ramli Ali that has been presented by the Sarawak Cultural Village, which has been re-choreographed by Ramli Ali? And then I would like you to share how do you, because the video that you share to us is the one that you choreographed. That means you have negotiated between both that you learned from the village and from Ramli Ali who has re-choreographed. That means that there is a layer of re-choreographed version of tanda in the stage. And my second question is, Dr. Matthew, and just a simple question. How have you ever share with the informants, how do they feel about your work, reconfiguration of Igal in the theatrical work, and then how do they really feel that has this abused their Igal or their silat or whatever, or I mean their honesty in the answer?
Okay, thank you for the question, Mr. Afzan. Okay, the process that I hope I can answer your question. Okay, every day he asks question with me. Okay, the process is when I observe the traditional dance with the old men. My difficulty is the style of the movement. And then also with Ramli also teach the new dancer, the young dancer that really work at the Sorok Culture Village. Ramli also have had something difficulty because the style of the old men, the style of the tanda from the village is very difficult. And when I learn from Ramli, and then I choreograph it at UPSI, at UPSI. I have the difficulty also with my dancer because they cannot do the style of the style and the manner of the old men like the traditional performance. All the steps is very unique. And what I can call is apong, all the movement from floating, all the movement from the traditional dance, and Ramli also the old penanda. The dancer keep floating, but the young dancer can do the that's the difficulty of the choreograph the new tanda. Okay, thank you.
Yes, so it's a question of feedback from the informants. Okay, the informants really liked it, and as I've said, we were very proactive in getting their opinion, and some of them were able to stay for the whole production and actually watch the play being shown for the whole 21 performances, and of course the reaction was very positive. But may I just say a bit of a caution here, because I'm a political scientist, and in the social sciences you have to be cautious. The informants probably are biased samples already because they worked with us and they are seeing their students perform it. Oh, so-and-so dances so well. So they're very excited. So they're very biased already. They like the production. They like their students. They have become their students. And they're dancing it so well, so they're very biased and they're very happy with what they see. I think the question to ask is that, were there other people from the field, from Sulu or Tawi-Tawi, were there other people from Sulu or Tawi-Tawi who have seen the play, and how did they like it or how did they not like it? And I will say that one person, the professor from the Institute of Islamic Studies, is a Tausug, a Suluk, and she liked it a lot. No? And she's basically seeing a dance from the Sama Tabawan and Sama Dilaut, and then she really liked it, and she calls herself an insider from the culture of the Sulu zone, and she liked it a lot. So I think the challenge really now is if we can bring this to Tawi-Tawi and show it to the people and find out if they're going to throw tomatoes at us, and then we will make spaghetti sauce or not. Or will they like it? I think that is the challenge. And I think that is also the challenge of Philippine cultural policy, because it basically talks about cultural integration. Do we have cultural integration the way we want it to be? And I think the answer is no. And one way of trying to do that is to bring this show to the field and find out, do they like it or do they not like it? And if they do not like it, what can we do to make it better so that they can like it? Ricky, would you like to add some things? No, nothing
Okay.
anymore? Okay. The sociologist differs.
Okay, thank you. Because of the time is passed very quick, so we have our coffee. You can talk with our presenter later. Thank you for all our presenter in this morning session. Thank you.